G'day everyone, it's Roy from the Caravan Show, and I have on the other line with me at the moment the Mayor Ryan Palmer from Port Stephens. G'day Ryan, how you doing?
Excellent, Roy.
Mate, you're Lord Mayor of Port Stephens, and whereabouts exactly is Port Stephens?
So Port Stephens is in the Hunter region, so we're about 2.5 hours north of Sydney on the east coast of Australia, and a beautiful spot for holiday makers all around Australia. And as we've seen over the last 6 months or so, since the lockdown of COVID has finished up, we're certainly a very popular destination.
Terrific. Ryan, how long have you been the Mayor?
Coming into my 4th year. So as a lifelong resident of Port Stephens, I've always had an interest in community and what our area looks like, and especially having young children, I wanted to be a part of the future of Port Stephens and what the direction we head in. So it's been a journey over the last 4 years to where we are today, but I've loved every minute of it. So
Ryan, is it an elected position? Are you elected by the people?
Yeah, it's a popularly elected mayor, so that was an interesting process for myself. I'm not a political man at all, or I hadn't been involved in politics in the past, so it was a very interesting process for me. But as I said, I love every minute of it. But being mayor, there's all sorts of wonderful things I get to do and spend a lot of time with our people here across the Shire, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Ryan, did you have a business or something before you got into this? What prompted you to suddenly go into the role of mayor from really not being involved with politics before? What was your motivation?
Well, I was in banking, so obviously that was a natural switch to being mayor. But I was with a community bank, and being in a community bank, obviously you've got to be a treasurer of some sort of community group, and the local business chamber got me into that role, and that's what sort of got my interest in what was happening in and around our community and what we could do as a community from an infrastructure point of view, but from looking after people and introducing services. And tourism's a huge part of our area as well, and a strong interest there. And growing up in a motel, we had a motel at Shoal Bay when we were growing up, so all those areas were certainly something that I was interested in. And being in the business chamber, you're connected closely with council, and after a few years of being with the business chamber, the opportunity arose at an election where the previous mayor, who'd been in local government for 48 years, he was retiring, and thought it was a good opportunity to put my hat in the ring and hopefully do my bit for the community.
So it was sort of a progression thing, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So Ryan, what sort of population does Port Stephens have? How many people are you responsible for in that sense? So
Port Stephens has around 75,000 people. So the majority of them live on the Tomaree Peninsula, but we also go quite a little bit west. So we head out towards Maitland Way, and Raymond Terrace is where our headquarters is for the council. But we also have Medowie and Williamtown, which is where the RAF base is, and we have large populations there in the Tillagary Peninsula, which is a beautiful spot. So we've got the sand and the rural setting as well. It's a really, really lovely place to live and to visit.
Sounds beautiful. So what sort of economy do you have? I mean, you mentioned that tourism does play a role, but obviously you've got a much bigger economy than that. Is it farming, industry? What sort of economy do you look after?
Well, we've got the Williamtown RAF base here, which has some 5,000 people on there, and we've just had the introduction of the new fighter jets there, the F-35 there. So that's a big part of our economy, the defence sector. We've also got the airport there as well, Newcastle Airport, which is in Port Stephens. So we've worked hard over a number of years to make sure that Port Stephens is recognised in there. So if you do go into an airport, you do see Newcastle Port Stephens. But tourism is huge for us also here, with that injecting some $600 million a year into the local economy. Wow. And building up quite rapidly, particularly over the last few years, with the number of attractions that we do have here. And then manufacturing is big here as well. So during COVID, we've all heard the cry that Australia needs more manufacturing in our borders. But here in Port Stephens, we've got a number of manufacturers that produce a range of things, from aluminium to mining goods to the West Track sorts of gear that gets out there, the big yellow machines. So we've got a pretty diverse economy across Port Stephens, and we're on the doorstep of Newcastle as well. So in the Hunter Valley, which is they're large economies that certainly flow into Port Stephens.
You know, when we talk about these various different industries and the parts they play, we understand that the tourism obviously is another section there. But how do we cater to the tourists? I mean, do you know how many caravan parks there are in your area?
We've got quite a number of caravan parks, and Council is heavily invested in the caravan park sector. With we have 4 holiday parks in the LGA, so we certainly work well with the private operators in our area, but we know how important those caravan parks are and holiday parks are to our local economy. And with them spread across the LGA, you can find them on the coast or in the rural settings as well. But they're a huge part of the fabric of what Port Stephens is about. And there's nothing better than Nelson Bay Road takes the majority of visitors in and out of the LGA. And when we see those caravans coming in there, we know that we're in for a good period.
What about free camping and say farm stays, those sorts of things? Do you cater for them as well?
So more in the rural settings, we have the free camping and the farm stay. When you're getting into the more heavily populated areas, we don't have free camping, but we've certainly got a range of amenities within our parks that are the council owned and the privately owned parks as well. We've seen over the last 6 months, we've seen the caravan parks full and brimming most weekends, and the school holidays were certainly excellent for the area. But we love to see visitors coming here.
We know from current experience that these parks are going to be chockers, quite frankly. They're getting really, really busy. So hopefully you have plans to do some extensions or open up some more areas for caravanners?
Definitely. We are in regular contact with the caravan associations across Australia, and that's one thing that is really important to us here in Port Stephens, and particularly at Council with our parks, that we are continually reinventing ourselves and reinvesting back into the parks to make sure that there is more room. And some of our parks are quite large, particularly Fingal Bay Holiday Park. The suburb there has a population of around 1,500, but when you have a Christmas period or a busy period, that can swell well over 5,000 people. So wow. When you're having that amount of people coming to an area, it's important that we're investing not only into the infrastructure in the parks, but in the community as well, because we want to make sure that when people are coming here to Port Stephens, that they're also having a good time as well.
Ryan, do you know if any of these are pet friendly? Because again, that's another important thing to my listeners. A lot of them are travelling around the country and they do bring their pets with them. Yeah,
we certainly allow pets into a few of our holiday parks. So Shoal Bay Holiday Park, Fingal Bay Holiday Park and Halifax are pet friendly. Obviously there's some restrictions in there around keeping your pet on a lead, or we can't have them in the cabins. But if you're bringing a caravan or a camper trailer, we certainly encourage you to bring your animals, because we know they're part of the family. My little dog, which is a COVID pup, we're inseparable now. So I know that when you're travelling around, you want to have your friend there with you as well.
What about facilities, say 24-hour service stations? Are they prevalent in your area?
Yeah, certainly. We've got a number of 24-hour service stations. So when you're travelling around the area, if you're getting in late or leaving early, we've got those facilities there. And we're off the M1 motorway. So obviously around those areas when you're coming into the LGA, you have all the amenities there. But we've got a range of caravan services as well around Port Stephens and Heather Brae, which is on in Port Stephens on the highway there has a number of repair places, has a number of sales places as well. So we're well recognised and well serviced by a number of those facilities.
So you're actually not that far outside of Sydney, though, are you? How long would it take to get from Sydney to your region?
Yeah, you're looking at about 2.5 hours from Sydney, obviously, depending on where you're coming from. But we're 2.5 hours north and up the M1, and then you're turning off at Heatherbrae there or Raymond Terrace, and you can pick your destination across Port Stephens there, but that would be the main way in.
So let's talk about these destinations in Port Stephens. Tell us about some of the things there are to do and see in Port Stephens.
So Port Stephens, we've recently updated our marketing campaign from PS I Love You to Incredible by Nature, and that slogan there, Incredible by Nature, references not only the built environment, but the natural environment, but the people that are around Port Stephens. We like to think that we're quite welcoming. But when you are here, we're on the Whale Highway, so through May through November, you can see the whales going up and down the coast, and there's so many vantage spots across the LGA that you're bound to see multiple whales at that time of year. We've also got resident dolphins in the port as well, that quite regularly you'll see those standing there on the beach, and they're quite beautiful. We've also got the largest sifting sand dunes in the southern hemisphere. So when you head out to the Warramai Conservation Lands, which is spectacular, you can head out there on a tour, or you can head out there yourself, or you can get a permit to go out through the dunes. They are spectacular. We've obviously got a range of water activities, whether you like kayaking or whether you like getting out on the boat or fishing, surfing or diving. We've got some beautiful dive spots here, amazing golf courses. I don't play them very well, but they're here, and there's a range of those as well. Bushwalking and cycling, I think we all know during the lockdown that particularly here in New South Wales, when we could get out and explore, that we're always finding new places. And as a lifelong resident, being able to explore the Tomaree National Park and find some beautiful spots that you probably never would have taken the time to find before. If you're coming here, me as a lifelong resident, finding new spots, if you're coming here for the 4th, 5th or 6th time, I can guarantee you'll find another piece of beautiful Port Stephens that you haven't seen before.
You know, we ask everyone the same question here, putting you on the spot a little bit. Can you give us a couple of secrets that people aren't going to find at the tourist booth or necessarily by Googling? Something that's kind of special but not well known.
Well, there's a couple of spots that come to mind when thinking about this. If you head out to there's a little town called Boat Harbour, and there's a spot there that is great for whale watching. There's a little path if you go to Boat Harbour Beach and you go to the southern side of the beach. You head out there, and it's just a special spot. It seems to be that you can have, a 270-degree view of the ocean. And if you don't see a whale or a dolphin or looking down into the water, you might see from time to time there's been seals there. You'll stand there and you think, this is the most beautiful spot in the world. But as far as probably the built environment and the cafes, there's some real gems. But there's one at Soldiers Point, the boat shed at the marina there. That's a real magic spot as well. But there's numerous. I don't want to give all the secrets away because the locals won't like me. But there's always new places to find, as I said before.
How important exactly is tourism to Port Stephens, and particularly now at the end of this, well, hopefully the end of this COVID issue?
Well, I'll put it this way. At the start of COVID, we get a lot of international visitors to Port Stephens, and at the start of COVID, we had some of our operators that go out onto the water come to me and say that something serious is happening here. They'd already been hit by the visitation or the lack of visitation from the bushfires. They were coming to me and saying that overseas bookings had basically dropped to nothing. At that time, we thought as a council that the local tourism economy should be treated as an asset, and we contributed substantially to promoting the region. We thought we'd be the best regional destination in Australia, and we'd put everything behind protecting our tourism market, because we saw it as though if we had a $600 million asset that was about to fall into the sea, we would do everything we could to protect it. So the tourism market was something that we invested heavily into. We had to put some of that investment on hold, but we see it as the lifeblood of our local economy. If we don't have visitors here and we're not showing them a good time, we don't enjoy the lifestyle that we do, because they add so much to our local area, not just dollar-wise, but bringing that diversity, bringing new people to the area, being able to support those jobs of our young people and older people across the community. So it means everything to us here in Port Stephens.
Tell us a little bit about Port Stephens itself in terms of its history. How did Port Stephens actually come about?
So Port Stephens has been here for a very long time, as known as Port Stephens, from the first fleeters that came to Australia from a European side. But before that, we know that the Warramai people have been here for 70,000 odd years, and we are really well connected with the Warramai people here. And if you ever get a chance to head out to their facility on Nelson Bay Road, which is known as Marook, you'll certainly see over the coming years some new attractions there, but they run tours on the sand dunes as well, and they've looked after this land for all that time. But from European settlement, a lot of the names that you see around the area are named after those early English settlers and some of the high-ranking officers back home as well over in England. So it was known as a fishing village very early on, and through tourism, it's certainly grown over the years. It was in World War II. There was a big American presence here from their military, being at Tomaree and a number of forts that are around the area. And we've got one of our people at the moment looking for some tunnels around the area that might be left here. But there's a lot of infrastructure, particularly around Shoal Bay, that still can be seen from World War II. But it has grown as a tourist destination, and people who've been here a long time still call it a little fishing village. But we're certainly probably not heading down that path now. We've got to make sure that we know that we're catering for the future and the future growth of the area that we've seen, over the last 20 or 30 years, and that will continue.
You mentioned before the Indigenous population, and I'm always keen to hear about this, but what about arts and crafts and markets? Do you get to interact a little bit there with local product?
Yeah, well, we've just launched a new fresh produce market, which will be happening in Medowie from next month, which is very exciting. And there's markets on every weekend that are put on by local service groups at Fly Point in Nelson Bay, so you can always get along there. And we've got a arts and crafts centre in Nelson Bay as well, and we've got the Tillagary Arts Group, which have their own facility on the Tillagary Peninsula. So if you are looking for arts and crafts, there's a whole range of different things you can do there. And we've also got a gallery that is run in Nelson Bay by artists. It's called the Artisan Collective, and they showcase local artists' work there. You can buy that, but they've been a tremendous success since they took off a number of years ago as a collective. And we really value our cultural side, whether it be arts and crafts or people across the LGA, with a number of new public art exhibitions and displays going in across the LGA in recent times as well. So it's a big part of the fabric here, and only continues to grow.
Mate, how do people find out more about the Port Stephens region, aside from going online? Do you have a tourist booth there, or?
Yep, so we've got a tourist information centre in Nelson Bay, but also you'd be able to Google Port Stephens online and find out a lot of things about the area. We've got Destination Port Stephens as our marketing partners in the area, which do a great job in attracting people here. And then we've got a number of operators across the LGA, which are larger operators as well, which I'm sure if you Google Port Stephens, they'll come up, such as Moon Shadow, such as the Sand Dune Adventures. All those companies together are all working towards one goal, and that's getting people here and having them making sure they have a good time.
So on that note, do you keep stats on how long these caravanners stay in the area once they get there?
We do, and I know that our wonderful staff at the holiday parks here in Port Stephens would have those stats, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what those figures are. But I know it's that the stays are getting longer and people are coming more frequent, because I'm passionate about tourism, and we're constantly talking about the success of our holiday parks and what we need to do to make them better. But we've got a really good team here that I know work tirelessly to ensure that those who do stay with us have a great time.
You know, I'm very impressed, Ryan, with your knowledge, obviously your local knowledge, and I think Port Stephens very lucky to have a mayor like you. You sound young though, which comes as a bit of a surprise when someone's got that amount of information and the passion and the drive that's coming through this morning. I'm really impressed for Port Stephens. Well,
thanks, Roy. We try to make sure that we're all as passionate about Port Stephens, whether we're young, old, or middle-aged, because we know how important passion is in whatever you do in life, and certainly across the LGA and across our parks, whether they're council-owned or privately owned, they all have that little bit of difference about them. But they all cater to different areas in the market, and I think it's extremely exciting, the times ahead with the new facilities and infrastructure that is going in across the parks. And we've just built a koala sanctuary with one of our holiday parks, which is the Port Stephens Koala Sanctuary, that has only just opened, and that's a $10 million investment by council and the state government, but that's next to a couple of privately owned holiday parks as well. So we know when we're doing well here in investing public money, we know that those down the road will do well as well. And we're all part of the tourism economy, and we're working together to make sure that we grow and we're sustainable. And as I've said a number of times, people have a good time and come back.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. We want them coming back. We want them staying there longer. We want people to actually start the tourism in our own backyards. I mean, 2.5 hours out of Sydney or whatever, you're not that far from anywhere, really.
No.
And when they get there, they've got plenty of time to stay, because there's lots and lots of things to see and do. Mate, if I'm impressed, Ryan. Thank you very much for coming and spending your time and telling our listeners a little bit about Port Stephens this morning and a little bit about yourself. We wish you and your region all the success in the world, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, Roy. We really appreciate the opportunity here in Port Stephens to be on the show.
Thank you.
It's alive and moving, Port Stephens. You can explore for the rest of your life, and you'll probably never ever really find out everything that this place has to offer. And so you just got to look at it closely. I was zooming along out to my favourite fishing spot, and right beside me, within 2 metres, was this massive creature rolled out of the water and blew the air, making the most unbelievable sound. I got goosebumps and gave a yahoo and basically said, thanks, mate, and kept going.
While everyone else is out snorkeling, these two girls are blotting there. A dolphin came up underneath them. Girls come back, said it's the best day of their life.
I remember my son, when he was a little boy, watching the whales, and he said, Dad, catch me one. You could almost run and jump off and almost touch one, they're that close. I mean, that's unique in itself.
And I think that's what Port Stephens does too with dolphins and whales, where you interact so closely with them. You get this sense that they are trying to communicate with you. It is incredible by nature, there's no doubt about it, especially the whales. I love those whales.
People come here just to enjoy sitting on the beach and because water calms people. I think being calm on country also helps country. So I think that's a big part of their experience here.
You can go bushwalking, riding, kayaking, surfing, fishing. It's just crazy to have so much choice and so much on your doorstep.
It's got a lot to offer. From 26 beaches, you've got the sand dunes, you've got the national parks, you've got rock pools, you've got viewpoints. You can't come to Port Stephens without climbing Tomarine. I mean, that's majestic. And you've got a lot of native animals, so like the koalas and the kangaroos and the dolphins and the whales. I mean, like, it's endless.
You know, there's so much just iconic Australian fauna here in Port Stephens that it's pretty easy to tick off some major bucket lists.
The sand dunes of Stockton Beach, particularly on sundown, oh, it's something special because all that sand turns to gold dust. It's just something that takes the breath away.
You can go on a camel ride and then you can jump in the water and swim with dolphins. I mean, where can you do that in the world? It's just amazing.
You just can't beat the atmosphere here in Port Stephens, the stunning weather that we have, the green grass, and then the beautiful sunshine, just stunning.
Wherever you look, wherever you travel around Port Stephens, there's lots of evidence of natural beauty. There's no doubt about it, it's pretty. But probably the biggest thing that I think Port Stephens has in its favour is the sense of community. People take pride in their local area. They like walking on clean sand. Rubbish gets picked up. They're here for long haul. And that sense of community is one of the major draw cards, I think.
When you walk into a shop and someone greets you like your family and they've never met you before, I think that's what keeps bringing people back and back. And you couldn't get me to leave because it's just home and it feels like home whether you live here or not.
Port Stephens is an amazing place. I should know I've spent thousands of hours over many years swimming in the water here and I know what it's like. It's amazing, truly beautiful.
As beautiful and stunning as this place is, surely everybody knows about it and everyone else wants to come here, but you still feel like it's just a little secret hideaway. So don't tell anyone. Shh.